Hi, everyone. My name is Carlene Spry. I'm the awards administrator for the Golden Crown Literary Awards. And I want to welcome you to the last session of the first ever Goldie Finalist Spotlights. Thank you so much for being here. For those new to the Golden Crown Literary Society, the GCLS recognizes and rewards quality literary works about women who love women and provides learning opportunities, encouragement, and assistance to new and established writers. In addition, we have a highly respected writing academy, an annual gathering of hundreds of readers, writers, publishers, and editors. That's our annual conference, which is starting in 2 weeks, and a monthly GCLS members only online book club. We invite you to learn more about the GCLS and perhaps become a member by visiting our website, goldencrown.org. We'll have some time at the end of this session for Q&A. Please be sure to use the Zoom Q&A box to submit a question, and I do encourage you to do so. If you run into technical issues, please log off, log back in. That usually resolves most issues. Closed captioning is available, and you can turn it on using your Zoom controls. Now, we are thrilled to have Flashpoint Publications as our sponsor today.
At Flashpoint Publications, it is our mission to bring LGBTQIA+ stories to life. In support of the growing multiracial and multi-age coalition of those who demand unbiased treatment and inclusion in all pursuits, we welcome you into our house. We support diversity within our works and welcome novels penned by and for all people. Flashpoint is a proud member of GCLS, and we wish to congratulate all the finalists, including our own authors, Tammy Bird and Kay Ayton. We hope to see everyone in person next year.
Okay, thank you so very much, Flashpoint. We appreciate your support. So let's go ahead and get started with our readings today. I want to introduce you to the authors. We're going to start with Jen Jensen, reading from Jamis Bachman, Ghost Hunter, which is a finalist in paranormal, occult, and horror. Next will be Anne McMahon, reading from a finalist in humorous novels, The Big Toe, and you guys can turn on your video if you'd like. Then we'll hear from Lil O'Brien, reading a selection from Not That I'd Kiss a Girl, which is a finalist in nonfiction. And we'll close out the reading portion of our session with Andrews and Austin, reading from their shortlisted paranormal occult horror novel, White Horse Point. Yay! Look at these lovely faces. Fabulous. So let's get started. And Jen, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for joining us today. I'm reading from Jamis Bachman, Ghost Hunter. And in this scene, Jamis first encounters the poltergeist that she has flown to Utah to investigate. So trigger warning, it's a little bit scary, but it's a lot of fun. So the cameras were the only tools left in her ghost hunting toolbox. She had night vision goggles to help her see in the dark, but they did little else. On television, Jamis used everything from meters that read electrical impulses to Ouija boards, but they were just props intended to entertain, so she let them go with the show. Now, stripped bare of everything, she relied on her second sight and the rare moments when the cameras caught something. The potential to dip into melancholy rose inside her. Her life was reduced to waiting for the video clip that couldn't be refuted. Despair creeped around the corner, stood on the threshold. Depression was tempting, but warmth enveloped and stopped her. With it came her most vivid childhood memory, and Jamis felt it as though she were there, reliving it. Her mom carried her from the couch to bed, half asleep, safe in her arms, and tucked her in. The blankets were heavy on her limbs. The window was open, the air cool on her nose. The radio on soft jazz filtered in from the front room, and while she drifted back to sleep, her mom rubbed her back. Then something pulled the warmth from her, like the blanket her mom lovingly tucked around her was yanked off with force. Her arms burned like she'd held a bag of ice for too long. The safety of the bedroom faded away. Now she was somewhere else, and her mom's body was on a stretcher. The zipper of the body bag opened just enough to see her face, eyes closed, lips blue. It was the worst moment of her life. Every night for the next 10 years, it was a scene that played on the backside of her eyelids when she tried to sleep. She left a whole chunk of herself in the room that day. The coroner packed it up in the body bag. The grief made her feel like she was clawing at a brick wall, fingertips bloodied. She carried the loss inside, woven into the scar tissue of her heart, and imagined death would come and she'd carry nothing else. Anguish reorganized her into someone different from that point forward. Jamis leaned over the stretcher to kiss her mom's forehead, heart-wrenched. Her mom's eyes opened. Adrenaline flooded her system. Her heart thundered and stomach muscles spasmed. It took a few minutes for Jamis to regain control of her limbs. The image of her mom's death-clouded eyes was prominent as she struggled to breathe. Upset clogged her windpipe. She couldn't escape the vision. That was not nice, Jamis said, struggling to leave. I'd like to help you, but if you keep that up, I'll tell you to fuck off. The pressure lessened. Jamis was confused about her whereabouts. Her place in time came back to her with the sound of a car horn. The curtain billowed. Do you want me to hurt as much as you? Is that what you're doing? I don't know who you are. I want to help you, but you need to be nicer. The air remained still and the house silent. Her emotions settled and she struggled to regain composure and change her tone. I have this feeling like I've been here before in this town. Do you think that's possible? The words surprised her. She'd not expected to say them. Branches of a tree scraped a window somewhere upstairs. Jamis watched cars drive by and was overcome by a sensation of slipping through the earth. She grabbed the trim around the window, closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and settled her vertigo. When she opened her eyes, the sun shone brightly in the front yard. The cloudy day was gone. Perhaps she was in a different place or time. There was a hunched figure at the bottom of the porch, its back to Jamis, wearing a dark bluish gray robe. A car with a large metal bumper and heavy square frame drove by. There was no sound. Other cars drove by as well, but she couldn't hear them. The steps she took were silent. She couldn't even hear her own breathing, which was labored from repeated emotional jolts. Jamis crept towards the figure, covering her eyes to block the glare of the sun, and descended the stairs. Each step reminded her of the dream. Her legs felt heavy, like she waded through waist-high mud. The pressure was so intense, Jamis dropped to her hands and knees to crawl, struggling to close the space between them. Did you bring me here? The figure turned and there was emptiness where its face should have been. It threw back the cloak and screamed. The mouth opened like a small patch of light inside an otherwise dark room. The sound choked Jamis. She perceived the sensation of hearing physically. A stench rolled off the figure and then danced in front of her eyes like bright, spinning, chaotic lights. Wherever she was, her senses were scrambled and confused. Smell was sight, and sound pressed against her windpipe, trying to snuff out her life. She lay down on her side, clawing at her throat, thinking there was something there she could pry off, but there wasn't. She thrashed, pushing back to her hands and knees, finally to her feet. Terror wasn't a good enough word to describe her state. There was nothing between her and the oblivion the figure represented. The creature's shadow was so long, Jamis feared it would consume her. It moved independently, long fingers stretching towards her. Humans were not meant to confront such darkness. Even Jamis was unprepared. She felt ripped open, like an axe had split her in two, head to toe, right down the middle. She had to get free of its orbit, find solid ground. She closed her eyes, an act of exceptional bravery, and ran into the middle of the yard, putting distance between them again. It was enough, and Jamis jerked back into the present. She was outside in the freezing cold alone. She rushed into the house, slamming the door. Her watch showed 10 minutes had elapsed. Her breath marked the frigid air. I asked for that. Was that you? Heaviness filled the air and fell like a memory foam mattress topper on her shoulders. It would be nice if you weren't quite so hostile. The pressure mounted again. Let's talk more later. The terror of confrontation had left her shaken, unsure of her own sanity. It was enough for the day. Jamis wanted to flee, but the door wouldn't open. Snow blew at the window. Desperate, Jamis connected with the door with her shoulder, throwing all her strength and weight behind it. The door opened, and she sailed through the air. Well held, Jamis said, as she hit the ground on her back. You are so rude, she yelled back at the house. Thank you.
Yay, well done. Since you can't hear the audience, I'm their stand-in. So good
Thank
job,
you.
good job.
Thank you.
Okay, well, now let's move on to Anne McMahon. You have the floor, my friend.
I love having the floor. Do I get the rest of the room? My name is Anne McMahon, and I am happy today to read from my Goldie finalist novel, The Big Toe, An Unlikely Romance, which is really an homage to the South. The two main characters are Nick, who is a furloughed attorney, and Frankie, who is a third grade public school teacher. And they meet when they both take temp jobs repossessing cars. And as you can predict, everything that could possibly go wrong does. In this scene, they are on their second job, repossessing a hearse from the Blessed Slumber Mortuary. We join them there. Frankie had the Uber driver drop us off several doors down from the Target. We walked past the mortuary twice to be sure there was no sign of anyone out back near the bank of parked funeral coaches. It looked like the coast was clear. Okay, Frankie said, let's do this. We casually made our way up the service entrance driveway and approached the queue of wagons. We had to dodge a few puddles of standing water, evidence of the recent detailing the cars had undergone earlier. We crouched down low as we crept up next to the shiny new Cadillac. Frankie fumbled inside her quilted bag and withdrew a retractable, slender-looking rod with an S-shaped hooked tip. What the hell is that? I whispered. It's a Slim Jim. I'm going to unlock the door. Why not just try the key Antigone gave us? Because Antigone's keys never work. Wait a minute. I reached out to stop her. I took hold of the door handle and lifted it up. The hearse was unlocked. Smartass, Frankie hissed. I crawled inside. The keys are in the ignition. I was having a hard time concealing my excitement. They are? Frankie sounded like that wasn't the good news I thought it was. Yes, yes, just sneak around and get in. 30 seconds later, we were rolling out of the lot and cruising down Ogburn Avenue. I was feeling cocky and slightly self-confident. That went great, I gushed. Yeah, I think we got lucky. I cut my eyes at her. What do you mean? The keys were in the ignition for a reason, Nick. Somebody was probably coming out to use the car. Really? That thought hadn't occurred to me. When I made the turn onto Akron Drive, I swerved to avoid a monster-sized pothole, but didn't quite succeed. The big wagon bounced in and out of it wildly. Something in the bay behind us shifted and resettled in sync with the car. We looked at each other. What the hell was that? I asked. You keep your eyes on the road. Frankie twisted around on the seat. I'll check it out. I tried not to panic while Frankie stole a peek behind the white curtain separating the driver compartment from the cargo area. Uh-oh. She straightened in her seat and shot me an anxious look. What is it? Don't look now, but we've got a +1. A what? The hearse swerved wildly and re-roared dangerously close to a public bus kiosk. Hey! Frankie grabbed the steering wheel and quickly righted our trajectory. Will you please watch the road? Okay, okay. I gripped the wheel with both hands so tightly my knuckles grew pale. What do you mean by a +1? What do you think I mean? I risked a look in the rearview mirror. Frankie had left the curtains parted enough to allow me to see the top of a longish brown box secured with straps to double rows of beer pins. The landscape in front of me began to pitch and roll in a seamless pas de deux with my stomach. I think I'm gonna hurl. Frankie looked at me with alarm. Pull over someplace. I was fighting hard to keep the big wagon centered in our lane and the contents of my stomach stowed inside. Where? Anywhere, just do it. I jerked the wheel hard to the right and jumped a curb into the nearest parking lot, barely managing to stop before slamming into the back of a Hyundai minivan. Car horns blared, and I heard another set of tires screech behind us. Oh, nice move, Frankie said. Her sarcasm was unmistakable. Hey, I was sweating profusely. You said any place. Yeah. Frankie swirled her hand in a wide circle to encompass the crush of cars that now had us hemmed in on all sides. You chose well. We're now stuck in the drive-through lane at Mountain Fried Chicken. What? I looked around us. Well, fuck. Frankie sighed and relaxed against the seat. Might as well make hay while the sun shines. What's that supposed to mean? I'm kind of peckish. I think something greasy would be good for your stomach, too. You cannot be serious. You want to order food? Why not? She suggested. We get a per diem. Someone behind us tapped a car horn. The line had inched up. I eased my foot off the brake and rolled forward. This is a goddamn nightmare. I'm in a nightmare. Right. Frankie scanned the menu board. Let's get a moose and a couple of cheer wines. What the hell is a moose? Wings, Nick. A moose is 15 chicken wings. Only 15? I jerked a thumb toward the dark passenger behind us. Think that's enough? I had no idea where my bravado was coming from. I was plainly on the verge of a total mental breakdown. Frankie laughed. If you mean iced tea back there, I don't think he's got much of an appetite. My near hysteria had now settled into a comfortable kind of quasi-euphoria. What makes you think he's a he? Simple, she said. That box is a 6-footer. Not many women require those. I guess that makes sense. We crept forward another car length. What are we gonna do with iced tea? I asked. Frankie met my eyes. That one's above our pay grade. You mean we let Antigone figure it out? Roger. Frankie picked up her cell phone and proceeded to text Antigone with the news that we were incoming with the asset. The Hyundai ahead of us had finally placed its order and rolled ahead to the payment window. I sighed and looked over at Frankie, who was now watching me with an amused expression. In for a penny, in for a pound. Want fries? I asked.
Well done. Yay. Excellent. Thank you so much, Anne. Much appreciated. And now we're going to turn the floor over to Lil O'Brien.
Hi everyone, or good morning here. It's early on a Sunday for me in New Zealand. So if my voice is croaky, I apologize. I was up late washing my girlfriend's cat, and I wish that was a euphemism. I'm going to be reading from my memoir, Not That I'd Kiss a Girl. It is a story, a kind of a deep dive into how I figured out that I was a giant lesbian. And it's set in New Zealand in the early noughties, an interesting time when we had dial-up internet and such things. So the passage I'm going to read is from chapter 5, when I'm a second-year student at a notorious university in the southern city of Dunedin in New Zealand. And I've really come to terms with the fact that these feelings for girls aren't going away. So I've decided I need to figure out what the hell is going on. So I start doing some research, and here we go. I'll try and speak slowly. I began researching, trying to figure out where to start on my quest for enlightenment. It wasn't as easy as it would be in today's world, where internet access can be as simple as picking up your phone. Back then, if I wanted to use the internet, I had to go to the university library and wait in a queue for one of the 12 computers assigned for casual personal use rather than assignments. The time limit was only 10 minutes, and it took me longer than that to walk to the computer from home. My other option was to check out books, but there was a greater risk of discovery. I developed a detailed plan to get around this, which I believe still holds water today. First, walk past where the queer books are kept, casually glancing into the aisle on your first pass. If there's no one in there, loop around and approach again. As you get closer to the LGBTQ section, peruse the shelves casually, as though you're looking for a particular reference number nearby. Whoops, you've stumbled upon the gay books. What a surprise. This is such a coincidence. But hold on, before you step closer, make sure you've got a book from a nearby section in your hand. That way, if someone suddenly walks into your aisle, you can flip through the decoy book as though you'd picked it up and then just drifted closer to the queer section unknowingly. Furthermore, make sure you put the book back while the other person is there, so they know you weren't actually looking at the homo books. Then continue looking at the books next to the books you actually want to look at for a good 30 seconds. Keep breathing. It's important not to draw undue attention to yourself. If you sense suspicion from the intruder, pick up another non-threatening book, flick through it, then snap it shut with flair, conveying through body language that you found just the one you were looking for. Hurrah! Then leave and do not look back. This is something only a guilty gay would do. However, if you're lucky and no one interrupts you, but please stay vigilant at all times, scan the titles in the queer section, identifying the ones you want to take. Do not pick them up until you've decided which ones you'll take. Otherwise, someone could approach quietly and bust you holding something titled Queer Theory, or worse, one with a purple cover showing an artistic rendering of two women intertwined. Now, have you mentally made your picks? Okay, grab them quick and get out of there. Wait for your heart to stop pounding as you walk away, because you're going to need to feign nonchalance to the librarian at the issuing desk. This is 2003 and there's no self-service issuing. Hold on, you don't want to approach the librarian with just a handful of Leslie books, do you? Silly. You're going to need to get out some other books to throw her off the scent. Safe books about plant life in the Paraguayan jungle or the Treaty of Waitangi. Something nice and dull. Did you make it? Congratulations. Scurry back to your room, close the door, and start learning how to be a gaymo. Books were actually not an overly successful route for me. The majority of queer books in the library were theory-based or just outdated, but I hit pay dirt one day on the uni computers. A lesbian film called The Truth About Jane was coming to Dunedin, and it was coming soon. I'd never been to a lesbian film at the theatre before. It hadn't occurred to me that such a thing might even exist. I was excited, but the thought of going also gave me an acidic feeling in my stomach. On the day of the film, I held off leaving the couch, paranoid that I was going to turn up early and have to wait around, which would have been too much to bear. Instead, I was almost too late. When I got to the cinema, housed in a retro building, I pushed through the swing doors with a neutral face, pretending that I went to these things every day. No big deal. It wasn't like I'd spent an hour trying to find an outfit that didn't scream straight girl, but also didn't scream trying to look less straight. I could tell that everyone was already inside by the level of noise coming from one of the theatres. Shit. I walked in and was trying to take in the overwhelming sight of nearly 100 women laughing and shouting to each other when a deep voice interrupted my daze. Excuse me, honey, I need your ticket. Startled surprise must have flown across my face when I looked up into the eyes of the person who had spoken. A muscular black man dressed in a neon pink Carmen Miranda two-piece, complete with basket of fruit headpiece, a long skirt with a slit up the side, and 6-inch heels. What was such an exotic thing doing here in Dunedin, a tiny city at the bottom of the world, with that American accent and self-assurance? I was taken aback, but managed to smile and fumble my ticket over. I made a mental note. Work on your poker face, damn it. Be cool, Lily, be cool. The only seats left were predictably right near the front. I made my way down the aisle, feeling dramatically conscious of all those eyes on me. And when I reached the row, I had to scoot along past 10 people to get to the free seat in the middle. My crotch had never been so close to a lesbian's face before. Excuse me, sorry to push past, excuse me, I said. It's okay, love, you can push past me anytime, a craggy voice rasped. Oh God. But when I finally got to my seat and settled in, my nervousness began to give way to an unusual sense of peace. There was an atmosphere of warmth and good humor, with people throwing balled up pieces of paper at each other and calling out. I realized that these women were relaxed, able to be completely open about who they were in an environment that felt safe to them. Maybe one day I would be like them. I let the wave of noise wash over me, and I leaned back in my seat and allowed myself a little smile. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you so much. Awesome.
You're welcome.
Okay, and now let's close out the readings with Andrews and Austin.
Hi there. I'm Austin Andrews. Today we're reading from our book, White Horse Point. Taylor James is a mystery writer who has been able to write since she divorced her husband. Yes, husband. She had lunch with her agent, and her agent told her that she needed to go to a cabin in the North Woods and finish the damn book.
Ramona was a true New Yorker, perfectly coiffed silver hair, 70 but sexy, black suit, gym trim body, big diamonds, and short attention span. Stop being depressed, she said. How can I not be depressed? Everyone in New York wears black. I feel like I'm in Game of Thrones. Ramona texted while absently addressing me and never making eye contact. Taylor, I want you to take the rest of the summer and go up north to the lake. The mosquitoes are large enough to be wall art, I said, as Ramona dipped into her tiny purse with 2 fingers. Why do you bother with a 4-inch purse? Don't you have a pocket? This purse cost $1,000 per square inch, and every woman in here appreciates that fact but you. She extracted an old rust-colored skeleton key and slid it across the cocktail table's high-gloss surface. I pushed it back and flung the back of my hand to my forehead, imitating someone about to be exiled. No, anything but the key. Ramona pushed the key forward. Your Aunt Alice knew what she was doing when she built that cabin, and even more when she sold it to me. Now take the key and think about it. Better yet, just go to the cabin, breathe, and finish the damn book. In line at the airport, an older, well-coiffed man ahead of me was giving his wife the 3rd degree about what she'd packed for him. He was dressed in logo-festooned golf attire minus the cleats. His head was on a swivel, scouting the terminal and pausing when he saw a pretty girl while continuing the conversation with his wife. I told you not to forget that. How hard is that to remember? He reminded me of Ben, nice looking, but not nice. She should tell him to stick his putter up his ass. Ben could be funny, I mused, which is what attracted me to him, but I didn't love him. And once we stopped partying and sobered up, it became apparent he was very bad in bed. We stopped having sex almost immediately. I wanted something more, but I made no attempt to get it, a fact I'd re-examined incessantly over the last 4 years. Was I in a trance? Was I under his spell, lazy, not giving a damn what? I just hung in and put up with it. What irony. The times when things were okay in our relationship seemed to be the reason to put up with the times that were horrible. Okay wasn't supposed to be the condition of marriage. Okay was your condition in the ER. He's lost his left leg, but he's going to be okay. I had 2 lives, the self-assured author doing interviews and book signings, and the wife in name only who stopped focusing on what she wanted and just learned to want less. My decade with Ben had been a total waste of time, pointless. Wind yourself up, tear yourself down, let up. After an hour of waiting, we trekked down the jetway and boarded. I pushed my duffel into the overhead bin above my seat and buckled myself in, my heart rate increasing dramatically, my fear level rising. It didn't matter if the weather was perfection, or if the pilot was Sully Sullenberger, or if John the Baptist materialized to assure me I'd have an equal number of takeoffs and landings. I didn't want to be trapped in a silver tube 30,000 feet above the ground with no control over what might happen. Flying meant I trusted that the guy who tightened the screws on the engine wasn't on meth, and the guy who loaded the cargo wasn't an Al-Qaeda sympathizer. I didn't trust. I didn't want to feel that way, but I did. A dark-haired woman in her early 50s sat down next to me in the aisle seat. She was wearing jodhpurs and shiny paddock boots, looking something out of an European riding journal. I wondered what strange attire required her to arrive, ready to ride. Angelique, she introduced herself. I thought I knew her from somewhere, maybe a literary conference. Taylor James, I said. Well, you look rather dashing. Her eyes danced over me. Well, I was going to say the same about you, I smiled, but you didn't. Synaptic delay, I said, amused that she seemed to speak unedited. So you're going to the North Woods? Her voice was silky. I guess so. Well, you don't sound very excited about it. I don't seem to get excited much lately. Actually, I do get excited, just not happily excited. I smiled at her again. She was lovely. You have important work to do there. That's what my publicist says. I laughed, but I've lost the passion. You can't lose what you never had, she said. Well, how presumptuous. Why the hell do people think they have the right to analyze me? I was about to cut the conversation short when she gave a cosmic shrug. Well, the Northwoods will change all that. All what? Your passion. You'll find passion you never knew existed. Now, how do you know that? I've been there. She patted me on the knee in a familiar fashion and gave me a wicked grin. Allow me to be excited on your behalf. The stewardess interrupted and asked what I'd like to drink as the woman slid out of her seat and headed for the bathroom. She was tall and glamorous and a bit 1970s. This is going to be a very nice flight, she said absently over her shoulder. She didn't return and another passenger took her seat. I told the stewardess I thought the woman, the one in Jodhpurs, was sitting there. The stewardess seemed perplexed, saying she hadn't seen anyone. I walked the aisle front to back before we were told to take our seats and fasten our seatbelts. I didn't see anyone either. Well, that's the damnedest thing, I said to myself, then fell into a deep sleep. I was surprised when the sound of the wheels touching down woke me up. I never slept on a plane. Never.
Yay, well done. Awesome. Okay, if the others can come back in, turn on your cameras, your video, and join us back here again. There's McMahon, there's Jen, there's Lil, okay. And now we'll get to the frightening part. Blah. Okay, great. Thank you so much, everyone. That was a lot of fun. Those are some great readings. A really great way to close out this series of spotlights that we've had over the last 7 weeks. So thank you so much. Just as a reminder to everybody, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A box. And you probably noticed throughout all of the readings that I was putting links into the chat so that you can purchase their books. These fine people spent a lot of time writing for us. And we get to revel in their talent. And people, they're not in it for the money, okay? They're not getting rich off this. So let's show our support for them by purchasing their books. So click those links, purchase those books. Okay. So I'm going to start out very quickly with a question, then we'll get to the couple that are popping into the Q&A. So my first question, and McMahon, I'm starting with you because I can. What was the inspiration for this book? Where did it come from? Is your mind just that demented, or was which?
Yeah,
and I know
it's widely known that my favorite pastime is cruising funeral homes. Yeah.
But seriously, where did it come from? This idea of repossession.
The truth is, The Big Toe was not the book I was supposed to write. The book I was supposed to write was Covenant, which is the 4th book in the Jericho series. But in the aftermath of the US presidential election and the onset of the COVID pandemic, I could barely string 2 words together. And I knew that it was going to be impossible for me, feeling everything I was feeling, to sit down and write what I knew Covenant was going to require from me. Because, it's a complex book with 1 million characters and all these plot threads. So I was really in a quagmire, and the first thing I had to do was reach out to Susie Bright, who's my producer at Audible, and ask if she'd be willing to do an extension on the contract that I had for Covenant. And God bless her, she said, sure. And then I decided that what I probably could do was write something that was completely frivolous and had very little depth, although, to be fair, some depth actually did manage to creep in, even though I tried to keep it up. But so what I decided to do instead was write something that I thought would just be really funny and a great distraction, not just for me, but for all of us to read. And I wanted to write about something that I knew. So I looked around where we live. I mean, this part of North Carolina is insane, and all the raw material I ever need to write anything, the only thing I have to do is go stand in line at the post office and take notes. you know. So I got this idea, you know, why not write a book about two women who repossess cars? And so I learned everything about how to hotwire cars, how to steal cars, you know, how that whole thing works. And I concocted a whole series of the most insanely ridiculous scenarios I could come up with for these two women to get stuck in, and then see what in the world they would do to find their way out. So that's really what it was. It was kind of like a, you know, when you loosen a valve, you know, to let the pressure off, that's what this book was for me, you know, so that I could do something to get through that period of darkness, and then hopefully get to a better place where I could sit down and write the really serious book that was in front of me.
Okay. All that research, now you have, if this writing thing.
Yeah,
doesn't work
anybody
out,
has any problem with a car, just give me, seriously,
Yeah.
give me a call.
You now have an alternate career if the writing
A
thing
cottage
doesn't work
industry.
out. Jen, how about you? Where did the idea for this book come from?
For Jameis, you know what? I've been packing it around for about 20 years or better. And then sometime at the end of, I think it was the end of 2017, I left a really responsible professional job in corporate America, and I relocated back home to Phoenix, and I had all this time, and I suddenly just thought, I'm going to write the book, right? And so I sat down, and it all just kind of fell together over the course of about 3 months. Just kind of, she's always been there. Jameis has always been there, and I think she's become more defined over time. But yeah, she's always just been there for as long as I can remember in my adult life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Andrews and Austin, how about you guys? Where did this book come from?
Well, I'm psychic, and so therefore we delve into the psychic world quite a bit, and we've had a lot of psychic experiences, and talking through them and loving the writing and loving Pam the way I do, it just all fell into place. And she developed the characters, and we added stuff, and it just really worked.
This is our comeback book after 10 years of being back in the corporate world. And so frankly, I was saying to her, I'm kind of lazy on the research side. So why don't we put it in a place that I spent 40 summers and know very well, like the back of my hand. And so that was the Minnesota Northwoods by the Canadian border. And then some of the experiences, even down to bear baiting, a guy taking you on a date to watch bears down in a pit, actually happened to me as I was a young person. So it's a blend of real things and created things.
Okay. Right. And Lil, I mean, okay, where did the inspiration come from? Well, you. But where did the inspiration come to actually put it into words and publish a book?
Yes, I mean, I'm very inspiring to myself. I started, the book took 7 years to write. So I started writing it when I was about 25. And I think I just carried a lot of the events of my coming out with me. A lot of great stuff happened, but there was a lot of family conflict as well that has never been resolved to this day. So it was just kind of tumbling around. And I started going into high schools here in New Zealand, and with kind of our local group called Rainbow Youth. And I started telling my coming out story to high school students, and their reaction was just so amazing. They were so enthralled and, curious about it, that when I kind of stopped doing that, because I felt like I was getting too old, which is funny now looking back. But I kind of, it had been such a cathartic experience for me, and I wanted to keep talking about it. So instead of having, 10 minutes to tell the story, I thought I'm going to write everything down instead. And it kind of started with a laundry list of all the kind of shitty things my parents had done, and then a list of all the funny things that had happened, all the mishaps and triumphs. And it just kind of grew from there. And it was just kind of my side project for many years. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Excellent. So let's look at what's in the Q&A. Okay. So, a question for Jen. How does someone who kept me laughing until the middle of the night write a scary ghost story?
So that's from Anne, I take it. She was my roomie at the GCLS conference in Pittsburgh a few years back, and I kept her up until like 4 a.m., I think. So I think, Anne, I said that I am, if we get Jungian, I'm probably just working out my shadow, right? Like I've got some stuff to work out, but in all seriousness, it's just the genre I love. You know, I read Stephen King to decompress and watch Criminal Minds for fun. So I think that there's something really cathartic about reading or writing something really scary. I like the sensation of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
and and you answered this question in writing, but I want everybody to hear your answer to this. And just how do you know so much about the repo business?
Do you want me to say what I said?
I want you to answer that question, babe.
Well, what I responded to the lovely individual who asked and who will pay for this later is, you know, when your book sales lag, you look around for other sources of income. So, no, research. Oh my God, what would we do without the internet? Really? You can find videos about everything. Everything. So every single job that Nick and Frankie have in this book, I'll just tell you this one thing. They have to repossess this really high dollar Donzi speedboat from this yacht club, and the way they do it is inspired. But I was actually able, through finding sources for places that actually sell these high-end yachts, they go in them with video cameras and they show you every single thing about these boats, how to start them, how to do both engines, how to empty the pumps, you know, all of that jazz. So, I mean, tons and tons of research. There's one scene where Nick and Frankie have to repossess a muscle car, and the guy has a breathalyzer attached to the ignition. So they can't hotwire it. The only way they can start it is one of them has to, you know, blow into the, you know. So I had to find training videos on how those work.
Thank God for YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Andrews and Austin. Amelia would love another Andrews and Austin romance. Is there any plans for another?
Well, has Amelia read Too Hot to Ride? We just put that out, and it's a romance, but we are talking about writing another romance. So yes.
Okay.
We love Western, you know, we live on a ranch, so we love Western romances, sometimes very old fashioned classic, and sometimes a little more modern.
Okay. All right. So another question that I have for you guys. Do each of you, do you have like a particular process or routine when it comes to writing? So Austin Andrews, I'm going to start with you guys because you had that like kind of knowing smile. So I'm going to start with you guys on that one.
The process is we fight. Because,
Don't admit that.
I'm very anal, and I always want to map it out, and you know, when are the dates?
I want it
and
to flow.
flow means just getting with it whenever the hell she can find time. Our process is we wrote for years together in California, did movies of the week and that kind of stuff. So we got most of the hashing out done during those early days. And so pretty much I put forth some sort of a rough treatment or plot.
Right.
She tears it apart, and we battle back and forth about the characters, and she's very good on character development. And then I start in, and I'm more the dialogue person. So over the years, we've just developed that, but it flows so naturally. I don't think we know we're doing it. Sometimes we don't know what we're doing.
We finish sentences sometimes, so it just.
Okay. So it's kind of a unique blend of the plotter and the pantster.
It is. It is.
Working together. Okay. Okay.
Sometimes it's weird.
Okay. Lil, how about you? When you were writing this book, did you have like a particular routine that you stuck to or process?
Alcohol. I used to just kind of write when I had time, and I didn't really do that much for a few years. And I kind of had done about a quarter of it. And then when I moved to New York for a while, it was because everyone's kind of hustling over there and ambitious, and there's quite a good freelance culture. And I used to just go and walk around the city really, and pop into bars and cafes, and yes, have a cocktail or a pint of beer, and just that would kind of be how I spent a lot of my evenings, and that's how I ended up finishing the book. So I jest, but yeah, that kind of became my routine. And then I used to kind of force myself, okay, you can't use alcohol as a reward for writing. But no, I think I just found that I don't really have a process. It's more that I do find that sometimes, even if you don't feel like it, as long as you open the document and sit with it for a while, even if you're reading it, then eventually you'll kind of start. So yeah, that's really my only advice, is just try and force yourself, and it tends to flow eventually.
Okay. All right. And Anne seemed to have some reactions to your answers. So let's go to Anne now.
Anybody mentions alcohol, I'm like all in. Like absolutely. But for me, I am incredibly TD. It probably doesn't sound like it, but I'm a plotter. I outline. I'm a staunch outliner. I think you and I would get along great. Yeah, I plan everything out. I mean, I have extensive outlines. They're granular, they're detailed. I know in advance how many chapters a book is going to have, how many scenes per chapter. I tend to write multiple narrators. So, see, we should talk, really. So and I think part of that is a function of how much other work I have to do, so that the time I have to write is really so small that when I sit down to do it, I have to know what I'm going to write. I have to know exactly what I have to do. I got to know where I'm going to start and where I'm going to end up. The other thing that works incredibly well for me is my wife, Salem West, has a tendency to lock me in a room with baby Gates. And I'm not allowed out ever until the end of the day, when I'm finished. So that also works well.
Yeah, that's Salem. She's a taskmaster.
Oh yeah, you have no idea. You have no idea.
Hi, Buddha. Jen.
Right over there.
Yeah, Jen, how about you?
I used to try and make myself write on a schedule, like I'm going to get this many words a day. But at the end of the day, I just do it when I feel like it, and then I'll sit down and, pound out 5,000 to 10,000 words and let it set for another 4 or 5 days when I'm working on something, and then go back to it when I'm ready. So yeah, I don't have any sort of methodology. I do it when I have the energy and when it strikes me, and somehow I always get it done. There's a little bit of stress at the end, right? But as my wife will attest, but eventually I get it done. It's like the least structured part of my life, right? There's so much structure in my professional life that I tend to try to approach this with just the energy when I have it.
Okay. So Lil, Tammy wants to know, there's a huge need for books like yours. Thank you. How hard was reliving the difficulties?
It was really hard. I think A.M. Holmes, the American writer, I saw her speak once, and she described writing memoir like picking at a scab and saying, look, today it bled this much. So it definitely was difficult in many ways, and I kind of did a lot of crying and typing. But it was also like very, the process of it and working it out, putting it into a narrative helped me to make sense of it, and it kind of helped me to pack it away. So I felt like it really helped me to process as well, even though it was hard to remember all those things. It was kind of like a process of healing as well. But it also, going back to memories, made me kind of celebrate a lot of things as well, and remember, the excitement of when you first come out, and the ways that people supported you, and just all the things you learned. It was such an intense period of learning so much about yourself for me. So it was just as many rewards really as pain, but it was definitely difficult. And the book has also had some consequences with my family. because they have never really talked about my sexuality. So I knew that publishing the book would really drop a bomb into the what we'd rebuilt since then, and it has. But I always said that it would be worth it as long as it made a difference to one person. And I get a lot of lovely messages from particularly young women, and so it's more than worth what it's cost, for sure.
Okay. Which leads to another question very quickly that Anne has for you. Is there acceptance of LGBTQ people in New Zealand?
Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, I think there's never really a simple answer to things like that. I think, legally, in terms of equality, we've been probably a little bit ahead of the curve of some countries. And we had marriage equality in 2013, and we had civil unions, I think it was 2009 maybe. So we've kind of always had some good legal protections, not that that's necessarily the be all and end all. I think because we've got a small population, we kind of have taken a bit longer to catch on socially. My experience of going to visit Sydney or Melbourne in Australia, I always felt they were a bit further ahead of us because, being gay was just no big deal. There was no reaction to finding out that I was gay, whereas kind of there was, people would still kind of go, oh, okay, and fumble for the right response. But I would say that, in the last, 7 years, we've definitely moved from acceptance to a celebration of queer people. And I would say it's actually a very great place to be a member of the rainbow community. And we have lots of kind of events. And so I would say overall, yes. But then again, I live in a bit of a bubble, as many people living in the big cities do. And there are some places, in the rural areas and the kind of South Island that just aren't quite as, they mean well, but they don't always, they just kind of don't have the experience. So they're just a bit behind the times sometimes. Yeah.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Okay. That sounds kind of familiar, I think.
Yeah.
A lot of places, even in the United States, kind of familiar. Yeah. So Andrews and Austin, what's the most interesting psychic experience you've ever had?
Whoa. I've had many. I had my aunt appear to me in full form at the foot of my bed 3 days before she was killed. And she told me goodbye. And that was one of the, most alarming but yet loving experiences I had, because she was telling me it was okay. She knew 3 days before.
Okay.
By a car walking across the road. So.
And your dog.
And my dog saw her too. Yeah, I had a little dog at the time. We both set up, and my heart was pounding so much you could see my nightshirt just going out. And my dog was like, the hair on her back was standing up. She barked. So
yeah,
that was a good one.
Okay.
But I had them since. I can't remember not having them, I guess you would say. That's that old thing. Everybody has a little bit of this. And it's knowing it, accepting it. My whole family is like this. My sister's not even tethered to the earth sometimes. She's way out there. But, it's almost like being out and gay. It's not everybody accepts it. Not everybody believes it. Not everybody wants to believe it. Some people are afraid of it. It's the same sort of genre type thing in a way, because it's different. And, I learned to be myself when I was, a small child, and I don't think anything about it. For those that want to talk about it, fine. For those that don't, that's fine too. Everybody has their own path to walk, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, and there's another question here from McMahon that she says she wants to answer the question live. So, McMahon, Aptaker wants to know, or she says, it sounds like Salem is Willie and you're Colette.
Yeah, no, it's more like Salem is Hannibal Lecter and I'm Clarice. I'll help you write it, Clarice.
And I can just imagine the look that Salem's giving you right now.
Oh, yeah.
And Jen, Sarah wants to know, are there any plans for Jameis 3?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jameis 2 just came out in May, So if you like this one, check out Origins. It came out in the middle of May, and yeah, I'll start working on it hopefully for like a 2022, 23, early 23 release. Yeah.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Okay, so we're getting close to wrap up time. So I have 2 follow-up questions for each of you. One, really quick, down and dirty. And then the other one is a little bit more involved. So the first one, and Lil, we're going to start with you. Haha, putting you on the spot. What's your favorite movie of all time? What's the movie that you can watch over and over and over?
Spring Breakdown, which is a comedy movie with like kind of a young Amy Poehler and Rachel Dratch. It's just really stupid physical comedy. Yeah, and I just kind of love anything with Amy Poehler in it. That's probably my comedy answer. Yeah.
Okay, all right. McMahon.
Do I have to pick something erudite or tell the truth?
Tell the truth.
The Trouble with Angels with Haley Mills and Rosalind Russell.
Okay, so love that movie.
I do too.
Yes, often have scathing and brilliant ideas. Andrews and Austin, how about you guys? Do you share a favorite movie or do you each have something separate?
We have something separate.
Auntie Mame.
I could have told you that. Mine is Somewhere in Time.
Oh,
I love that. Somewhere in Time. Oh,
that's a great movie.
so great.
Life is a banquet. Most poor suckers are starving to death. Jen, how about you? What's your favorite?
Stranger Than Fiction. I love that movie. I can watch it again and again and again. It's brilliant.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I like the variety.
Yeah.
And I like
What's
the
yours,
fact that I
Cars?
know most of them. Howard the Duck.
Not surprised.
It's a ridiculously stupid movie.
Mhm.
But it's directed by Spielberg. It's a Marvel universe movie, and it's Leah Thompson in very, very skimpy clothes. I mean, let's
Seriously.
just
Okay.
that's what it is. But yeah, Howard the Duck. I could watch. I could watch that all the time. I mean, there's a bunch of them, but if I just want to turn off the brain, have some fun, laugh, and drool over Leah Thompson, it's going to be Howard the Duck. Okay, so final question then. And Jen, I'm going to start with you. Okay, so you all are Goldie finalists. Yay! Congratulations. Well done. So what now? What's has recently been released? What's about to be released? What are you working on, if anything? Tell me about this. So Jen, what's up with you?
So, like I mentioned, Jameis 2 came out in the middle of May. I have a book that'll be upcoming through Wild Rose Press with my bestie, Patricia, who's actually on today watching us. So that'll be coming out before the end of the year. And I am going to actually start working on a real life ghost story. So a nonfiction, a reality-based ghost story that unfolded in my life and the life of my family in 2020. So that's what's going on with me.
Okay, Pandemic Ghost. Awesome.
Yes.
Lil, how about you? Are you working on something new?
Yeah, we're actually about to start writing the series proposal for Not That I'd Kiss a Girl, the TV show. So it was optioned recently by South Pacific Pictures here in New Zealand, who do a lot of our Kiwi made shows, and that's really exciting. So I'm going to be co-writing that with them, and we're starting next week actually. So fingers crossed that in the future we'll have a TV show that we'll be able to stay in the same universe.
All right, excellent. Is it like a reality show? Is it a scripted show?
It's going to be a scripted kind of dramedy, and it's going to be centered around the part of my book that's set at university. I went to a very notorious university with lots of drunken shenanigans and kind of unruly behavior. So it's kind of going to be centered around my coming out in a very heteronormative boozy environment. So I think it'll be kind of probably a lot more fun, but it will have the heart, will be kind of probably some family conflict as well. So it should be really great.
Great, excellent, congratulations.
Thanks.
Austin Andrews, what are you guys working on?
I'm kind of the problem this time because I'm torn between political activism. I'm very very involved in politics, women's rights, equality. And so I'm drawn towards a more serious subject matter. And yet we love to do romances. And so we've
Right.
started a romance. And I get dragged away because we blog every Mondays at bossmaresart.com. And I've got to get my shit together.
Well, hey, there you go. There you go. Okay. Well, you know what? You do you. Do your pace. Do the important work. It's all good. McMahon.
Here it is. Fourth
Wow.
book,
Woo.
probably final book in the Jericho series, which is probably my magnum opus. And here it is. And it publishes on July 13th.
Wow.
Great.
All right.
It's amazing.
Everybody be on the lookout for Covenant. Excellent. Great. Thank you, everybody, so very, very much. Once again, this was a grand conversation. I could go on for hours, but people would hate me for doing so. And I don't want people to hate me. I have enough people hating me. I don't need more. So again, thank you very, very much for taking the time out of your weekend. Lil, for getting up at god awful hours in the morning to be with us. Yeah, you would, Anne. So everybody, go buy their books. Go buy their books. And Lil was kind enough, I saw in there to see that, to say that her book was coming back to Amazon. Was that it? Because it is.
Yeah, it's I'm not sure why it's not on there at the moment, but it's usually about 16 to 18 US dollars on Amazon. But in the meantime, we've just got some distribution issues. In the meantime, it's available on Kindle and iBooks, or order it from a New Zealand store. It'll be
Okay.
cheaper. Yeah.
Excellent. So everybody go buy those books. And I hope that everybody who can hear my voice, one, isn't having stomach issues right now, but also that you will join us on July 31st at the Goldie Awards. And quite frankly, in 2 weeks, our conference starts. So hopefully we'll have some people joining us for our conference. It'll be all the weekends in July, Friday through Sunday. Join us. There'll be lots of panels and presentations, more spotlights like this from authors across our entire membership. So please go to goldencrown.org, register for that conference. And again, thank you so very much. Well done, everyone.
Thank you, Cars.
Congratulations again. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Everyone.